Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the 13th Fleet After Action Report. And this is brought to you by Admiral Tater's Ship Shop. So be sure to go ahead and check out the link there. And got awesome supplies. If you have not seen them, actually, I feel sure if you've gone to any tournaments, you've probably seen them. So definitely check it out. Thank Admiral Tater for actually sponsoring the show. We appreciate that. I want to welcome you to this is actually going to be the first edition that we talk about our new Clone Wars Rebellion in the Rim campaign. I do want to, before we get started, apologize for not having a video from the last round. The audio was so horribly desynced that you heard me talking during Sean's turn, and that was not going to work, so I couldn't figure out a good, safe way to fix that. We will be recording next week, so we will not be streaming live on Thursday, but we will have that battle for you. So, with that, all that being said, all that out of the way, let's go ahead and bring the team on board here. We've got Garrett with us.
Hey, Chris.
And we've got Reuben with us.
How you doing, Chris?
I am doing great. We are ready to go ahead and talk some Clone Wars here.
Yes, super exciting. I've been
All
waiting,
right.
been waiting for this. So, hey everybody. So we have been teasing this upcoming campaign. We're now 2 rounds deep into it, so we've got a lot of info to share. We are playing an enhanced and modified rule set for Rebellion in the Rim, and in this case, we're using the Clone Wars factions. But this will work also for Galactic Civil War, easy peasy. Reuben is going to share with us his intent behind why we made the changes we did and how you should look at the campaign while playing it. Reuben?
Yeah. So I designed this expansion content for Rebellion in the Rim with the purpose to present Rebellion in the Rim as combat as warfare as opposed to combat as sport. So when we play a game of Star Wars Armada at 400 points in a tournament environment, that is combat as sport. The teams are perfectly balanced, the board is perfectly balanced, and it is purely a just one-on-one skill. Combat as warfare approaches using Armada in asymmetric ways where the fleets aren't always balanced, the objectives aren't always balanced, and your knowledge of what you will fight against is not necessarily balanced. So the idea is to say, if I were a Jedi commanding a fleet to execute this mission, and I didn't know everything, and I had to do my own reconnaissance, send my men to fight, and I can't fight all the battles for them, how do I, as a player of this game, Star Wars Armada, play the rule set that allows me to roleplay within that space?
Correct. So, a big thing we wanted to do was make sure that you didn't need a bunch of extra stuff to play this. So we've made sure to use all the original components in the game. The only exception is to make this campaign work in a better way is the map is different. Now, when we're done testing this game, I'll be releasing the map as a Photoshop file, which can be used on any of the free apps as well, with a bunch of very easy to understand layers to create the map and then save it as images and share it with your team. I suggest doing it digitally rather than in person. It's just so much easier to manage. Now, Chris, I think he has the map up from originally. So there is a lot to talk about. And so to organize our thoughts and keep everybody on board without losing everyone, we're going to only discuss changes as they come up to our campaign. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the map generation. So the first thing you're going to see on this map is it's got lines, what we're going to call hyper space jumps and hyper lanes. The red stuff is a hyper lane. And if you know anything about Star Wars, you hear a lot about, the Hyperion lane, the Corellian run. Those are basically clear and fast, vast spans of space you can traverse. And so the planets connected in red, you can jump between any of them freely. They're all connected. So Bespin to Ryloth, Ord Mantell to Solist, etc. The white-looking lines and the blue lines are planet jumps, and that's just adjacent planets. Okay, so the next part of the map is, and I'm going to let Reuben explain this part, is to make the campaign more varied, and so it's not the same each time, is we change where green objectives go. And I'll let Reuben talk about that.
Yes. So following on the idea of you don't necessarily know the exact metrics that you're going to be fighting within a space, right? So we don't know where our allies are going to come from. We don't know where the supply convoys are going to be. We don't know where unseen elements are going to show up we can take advantage of to help us win this campaign. I decided to essentially just count up all the green objectives on the map, take the planets that are available, put them all in a matrix with all the available objectives, so that you can, instead of it being printed like it's on the map and you fight the same battle in the same space over and over, instead, at the beginning of the campaign, you roll half of them, so you randomly generate half of the objectives, and then after the first act is done, the other half are then generated. So you get a basically fresh play experience every time, with the interaction between which planets
You're breaking up there
are connected to which other planets and which upgrades they have, and then suddenly a green objective that not too surprising. Am I more stable now?
Just a little bit.
Okay.
We caught most of it, so keep going.
Yeah, keep going.
Be less interjecting. Yeah. So instead, you won't necessarily know that, for example, recover supplies is on Lothal. Instead, Lothal could have any of the green objectives on it, or it could have no green objectives on it. So it makes the game more emergent in its gameplay.
Right. And this is special because green objectives impact unique upgrades. So if there's not a green objective on a squadron planet, like now Hutta, for example, there's no green objective to play, thus you cannot get a unique squadron from playing on that planet. Mm-hmm. Two other notable changes we made to the map. For the Clone Wars, a big shout out to Ion Radio. We used their upgrade slots to add additional turbo laser and orbit slots to certain planets, and those are denoted by being ringed in blue, and that's because, of course, the Republic can't take ion cannon upgrades. The other thing we did was, for the Clone Wars campaign, we moved prototype recovery off of Lothal and put it on Mon Calamari, because it just makes more sense lore-wise.
Mm-hmm.
So, now, the map. So we're looking at it. So let's just, easy peasy, where your fleet is on the map is where you start. You can go 2 spaces, so 2 jumps, and take no condition cards. So if you start on Solist, you can jump from Solist to Ryloth to Tatooine, and arrive there with not taking low supplies or low fuel. If you go more than 2 spaces, you'll take low fuel. And Reuben, how did we change low fuel condition?
So we changed the low fuel condition card to, well, let's see here. Basically,
Here, I got it pulled up here.
Low fuel.
I'll read it real fast. So low fuel, all we removed was part of the start of the card. So it remains the same for the battle phase, to where basically your ships can't get deployed faster in speed 1, and they must be deployed touching the edge of your side.
Isn't that a choice for the opponent, whether or not you start at speed 1 or you start touching the edge of the map?
That's correct. Sorry, I thought I said that. It's your opponent chooses one of the effects, you either cannot deploy higher than speed 1 or you deploy touching the edge of the map. And then that's really it. So to get rid of this card, spend a resource, or if you played steal supplies on the map, it gets rid of the card. It's not that bad. Now, Reuben, what happens if you go more than 4? If you jump more than 4 or more? We get low supplies.
If you jump 4 or more spaces, you get low supplies. And boy, when you start digging into the writing of this game, you can really see the layers of game development that happened in Armada over its lifetime. Because this card didn't even conceive of how we play Armada now. So we had to change it pretty substantially. So we changed the not being able to get any tokens effect. We changed the exhausting upgrade cards, staying exhausted, to a modern approach to it where if you have a card that has a spend effect, it starts the game exhausted. So ECMs starts exhausted. And if you have a card that is a readying card, so one that doesn't cost anything to refresh, you have to pay 1 token of any type to refresh it.
Right. So a good example of that would be Assault Proton Torpedoes. Normally, doesn't take a command token refresh. Now you have to spend a command token. So this adds a lot of complexity to certain fleets. And if you don't pick that option, your opponent can choose the other option, which we've decided would be, for the battle, the engineering value of all your ships is reduced by 1. And for ships for like
That's
the CIS
brutal.
that have an engineering value of 3, now they just have a 2 on a Recusent. That sucks. So low supplies.
Yeah.
Now the other card, low morale, we did not change, but we did change the way that you get this condition. On the map, if you pass through somebody's planet that has their presence, you're going to grab low morale. And then if you spend a diplomat token, Reuben, make sure I say this correctly. If you spend a diplomat token on a planet and they pass through that, you gain low morale. Is that correct?
So if you have low morale, you can't attack a planet that is the target of diplomats.
Okay, there you go. So if you... And now, low morale... You cut out, I'm sorry, Reuben. Now, low morale will become more impactful as more planets gain presence towards the end of the campaign. So anyways, yeah, so that's map generation. Now you're looking at what we chose to start with here. Each team gets 2 bases, and like in the base game where the Rebels get first choice on their base, this time the Republic gets first choice on their base. Or I'm sorry, is it the Empire gets first choice in the base game? I can't remember. Either way. So we both picked bases. To begin our campaign, the Republic took Kessel and Megiddo, and the CIS took Solist and Felucia. And now base placement matters a lot because your fleets secretly have to start at one of these bases. And if you can reach a point that the other team's base can't reach out to, condition cards start to come into play. All right, so that map is now set up. The second thing we're going to talk about quick here is fleet building changes. The first thing that we want to talk about is aces. Listen, it's a 250-point max game, and you're only allowed an ace with defense tokens for every 100 points. So, in Rebellion of the Rim, you can only ever have 2 max aces. You cannot start with aces in your fleet. You can only start with generic fighters. And you only can get aces if you fight at planets that have the squadron upgrade, and you fight a green objective. For the Clone Wars, we did not do any limitations to large bases because of the limited fleet compositions available. For Galactic Civil War, what are the limitations, Reuben?
We're considering 1 large per player instead of 1 large per team. Last campaign, we had Rebel 1 and we had an ISD 2, and they were definitely like the core identity of each of the two factions. But, I mean, everybody likes the big ships. You want to put them on the table. You want to have them in the squads and just have the feel like it's Rogue One, feel like it's the Assault on Endor. So we'll see how it works, because as it stands right now with our testing with Unlimited, they are definitely the primary focal point of both teams.
Yeah, people like big ships. And then it goes without saying, listen, everybody, no Starhawks, no Onagers
Yeah.
on a 3x3 map. No. Okay.
Don't do that.
Now, the other thing we did with fleet building, beyond that, is objective cards. So each team is limited to picking from the same deck of objectives. So two players in the same team can't take asteroid tactics. That goes to one player. And this really makes things more varied. And you combine this with the map, because the map has planets, and the planets have certain objectives attached to them, and those objectives on those planets replace the red, blue, or yellow that's in your deck.
Let me tell you, with those limits, you have to dig deep on your mission knowledge and really look at those other ones, because, you know, there's like 9 ones that are basically meta standard ones, tournament meta ones, but like if you're playing with 4 people on your team, one person's going to be playing that off meta stuff, and balancing it out to make sure that you got the good combos of your basic objectives spread well between your team. It's a real skill.
Yeah. I think it's really interesting how many objectives there actually are, because on our team, we picked 9 out before Chris got to pick his, and he still had to choose from like 20 plus.
Yeah, there's a lot out there.
And when you're playing on, and some are removed, we won't talk about each one that's removed specifically because they don't work with a 3x3 map. Fire lanes in specifically removed because that's a really dumb objective. Anyways, but speaking of fire lanes, the biggest thing about objectives in our campaign is we are reducing the amount of victory points you get for victory tokens. So if you're playing a game and a victory token is worth 10 points, in our format, it's now worth 5 points. And that's because we're not playing with 400-point fleets.
But note that the objective tokens for green objectives, the campaign objectives, are not halved. So they are absolutely the critical focus of any of those games because they're cool campaign missions.
Right, and that goes back to Reuben's spiel at the beginning about combat as warfare instead of sport. Because it's a lot of these battles are going to be unfair. With things like allies, there's some green objectives where you bring in a whole like 40 points extra, which is a quarter of the fleet. So, so that's that. All right, so now third topic here, starting locations and secrecy. So we mentioned when you generate the map, you put down 2 bases each, and everyone starts secretly where we're going. All right, now Chris is going to bring up our lovely round 1 battle. I think the first one I have here is a Bespin. So the CIS, we're getting into the meat and potatoes here now. All right, so the CIS got to go first. Pick the first assault. Jason, he has our triple battle fit hard cell fleet with a couple of tri-fighters. He attacked Bespin, and Reuben defended it.
Sure did.
And Reuben won. What objective did you guys play?
We played my Rift Ambush.
Rift Ambush, thank you. So yeah, and we don't have a ton of time to go over all these impacts, but we also want to keep you guys up to date on actually how our campaign's going. So in this battle, Jason chose not to take the green objective that was at the planet because he felt too as much of a disadvantage against Reuben's fleet, which unfortunately meant
him a little.
Yeah, Jason didn't get to take an upgrade card from this planet, which was a big blow at the start of the campaign because he specifically wanted a title card. So the Republic took it and gained resources. Big move. All right. The second attack that the Republic made was against Tatooine.
Yep.
And they sent Aaron's Venator, Pelta, and Consular fleet
Mhm.
to attack that, and I went to defend it. And Chris has got our new fancy schmancy
And it looks like there are
battle.
no squads on that.
Yeah, so Aaron's is a squadless
Squadless.
fleet. And I have a CIS Gazanti, Providence, Tri-Fighters, and Hyenas. This battle was actually pretty close. He got half hull on my Providence, and I eked out a win on him. But this goes back to when we were talking about fleet building. If you pick just one ship, and with the way the game works now with half points, if you lose half the points of your Providence and a couple fighter squadrons, you're going to lose to somebody who just has a couple smalls because you have all your eggs in one basket. So Tatooine was a victory for the CIS, and you'll see round one was pretty big for the Republic. Our second attack, we sent
Jerks.
we sent Nick's fleet. He has a double recusant to Mandalore, and Mandalore is a big one because it has an ally token.
Mm-hmm.
And Jeff went to defend it. And Jeff's got a single Venator, one activation, with just a ton of fighters.
It's a weird fleet.
Yeah, one thing that I want to point out on that particular fleet is that the Rebellion and the rules, Rim rules, do not follow standard rules as far as what you can have with squads with your ship. You don't have to go with that only 1/3. So he definitely did not do that.
The man loves his generic squads, and I respect that.
Yeah, and I think that's... Sorry, Chris?
He was able to eke out a win off of his, I think it was superior positions.
Superior positions.
But it was a relatively bloodless game.
Yeah, so this is interesting because I've had people come to me and say, what stops people from just taking all squadrons? And in reality, it just doesn't always work. Because you need ships to do things. I mean, basically. There's a lot of objectives that require ships to reveal command dials, control the board, and generic squadrons can get shredded pretty quickly.
Yeah. Flak is very dangerous.
Yes. Double flak versus generics. So at Mandalore, Republic held, and they took it, and gained an ally token. And then the Republic attacked Yavin, and this was Chris's Liberty Standard Recusant Hard Cell Carrier fleet versus Sean's, and I'm actually really worried about Sean's fleet. He has a double acclimator with swivels.
Yeah.
Kind of painful.
And also with munitions. It's probably Gar Team's favorite fleet because it is hilarious.
Yeah, so Sean is I'll say, he's past new player status, and he's reached, we'll call it amateur status. And once he figures this out, and gets a couple more upgrades on these swivels.
That's what we're hoping.
Because as Chris found out, you can shoot a black die at long range with assault proton torpedoes.
That's what we're hoping.
That last game.
Yeah.
But move on.
Yeah, this is round one. So, this was another Republic victory at Yavin, which gave the Republic a lot of board control.
14 points.
Yes. Now, Chris, can you bring up the round one aftermath map now?
Sure thing. We can do that.
And the next thing we're going to talk about here is the retreating rules. And so while we're playing this, we're playtesting it. We're trying to find the optimal way to make this game intriguing to play.
And we've got a really healthy balance of like high-level tournament players, very experienced commentators and players, and very new players.
Like brand new players.
Yeah, so we get to test in an environment that I can actually like see how a new player engages with these rules, so I can make the game fun at their level of play. And that's very different than fun at my level of play. And it's really important to design for new players and for amateur players because they're the majority of the player experience.
Right. People just trying to have fun.
Absolutely.
This is a really important part of this. What happens after round one? So you're looking at this map. So when we declared attacks, none of us took any condition cards. We were all able to reach our points without going beyond 2. Now, what happens when a fleet loses?
So when a fleet loses, it has to update its current location during the determine battle effects step, which is very specific. I know these rules too well now. It's kind of terrible, frankly. But during the determine battle effects step, the fleet has to move its current location from the location it fought the battle on to a planet within distance 1. But you have to follow a certain priority. First, you have to go to a friendly base. Second, you have to go to a friendly presence. And then if there's neither of those within distance 1, you can go anywhere. So, I wrote that as this makes sense. You lost the battle. You're going to hyperspace away. Like, I've been reading a bunch of Rogue Squadron, and they just kind of, hyperspace out, and you don't know where they went. Interestingly, it makes such an intensely interesting game experience, because suddenly a person who lost, you don't know where they are. And not knowing where they are, and they're just one space away, is so many more places they could be. And could be is good game design.
Right. And this is another part of helping the game help people when they lose. Because when you lose a battle, you have to leave. And so now it gives you a little bit of surprise. And this is another good reason to not attack places adjacent to your base. Because if you lose, they know where you're going back to, your base. But if you lose next to somewhere random, you don't know. So after our first round, we both had one player where we didn't know where they went. Aaron retreated after our battle on Tatooine. I had no idea where he went because it's further than 2 spaces from Kessel. And they didn't know where Chris's fleet went. Yeah. And so we know now that Chris retreated to Raxus Prime from Yavin, and Aaron retreated. Right. And Aaron retreated to
Solus.
Ryloth.
Yeah, Ryloth.
Yeah. Which I expected that, but then he did something I didn't expect afterwards. So we'll talk about it when we get to round 2. It's really funny what happened because we mind gamed each other into the same mind game.
Oh man, the mind games are real in this.
Yes, so that's retreating. So, and then the next thing we're gonna talk about is scarring. So we both lost a lot of stuff in round 1. So Reuben, tell us about how repairing things works in this game now.
So instead of each player repairing a number of destroyed components based on the number of bases that team has, each team generates a number of fleet points equal to their bases. So each base is 100 fleet points. And then they have to use that pool of fleet points to repair their damaged game components from the whole team, paying points equal to the point value plus upgrade cards of any destroyed component. So in the end, we ended up being down enough where we had to scar one of our V19s. And on average, so far, it's turning out to be basically like 1 or 2 more scarred components, or like non-repaired components than the regular game. But man, we're riding a tight line because we'll get to what happens in round 2.
Right. And what we wanted was we wanted scarring to happen because it's part of the game. And when we played Rebellion the Rim with its base rules and then a couple of the Ion Radio house rules, we never had anything scarred the entire match. And we played 2 full acts with 8 players and never had anything scarred. So something was very broken.
And we didn't even consider hyperspacing away because it didn't matter.
Right, which we'll talk about. So, and then the other thing we're going to do, and we took this from Ion Radio's rules, is crippled ships. But a big thing here, if you get half hull damage on a ship. You don't get... They don't get scarred. But you get half points for them. So that's an important thing to realize. And the other thing is, if you're going to lose a ship and your team is already losing a lot, it's a good idea to hyperspace out to save points because you don't have to repair it now. So those are the scarring rules. And then the other part of scarring is we changed one of the commander abilities, Repair Expert, to just give that commander 50 points to use on his own fleet to repair. So that he doesn't have to use the pool of points that the team's using. And repair yard tokens, what do they do now?
So repair yard token says you can repair one of your ships without paying any points.
Which is huge.
Which is huge.
Right. Because some of these ships are worth 100 points.
Mm-hmm.
Because repairing stuff is hull plus upgrade cards. All right. So we both came out of round one with 2 scarred things. I had a Vulture and you had a V19. Well, I guess 1 each. 2 total. Then the next thing we're going to talk about here is after a battle occurs, you gain experience for your custom commander. The only part we changed now for this round, we messed with it too much in the first part when we first played it, is if you lose a game, so if you play a game, everybody gets 1 XP for playing. If you lose, you get 1 more XP, all right, because you lost, so you need help. If you win, it doesn't matter how hard you win, you don't get extra XP. You already won, you're already better, so you don't need extra points
there.
Right. So you don't need to snowball that XP gain for the winner. And the only other thing is, if you lose or play against somebody who has 25 more points worth of ships and squadrons than you get an XP.
Yeah, just play.
Ideally, I don't think we'll run into that problem because of the way that we're scaling fleets. So
the only time it may come up is because of the squadron's reward. It's just a big burst of points.
Yeah.
Right. So, amazing. So the next thing we're going to talk about here is the ally token and how we're changing how allies work. Period. Now, I took a quick screenshot here of a lot of things Reuben and I talked about. Basically, again, we wanted to make this campaign playable for anybody who owns not $5,000 worth of Armada.
Don't be like me.
or any of us that have all of it. If you just have 1 Rogues and Villains and 1 Rebel Squadron 2-pack, which is not necessary, but a fun thing to have, because I know it's hard to find now, and there's a lot of third-party ways to get it. But essentially what we've done here is, if you do Hired Scum, it's a green objective. You just basically pick from a list of squadrons we made. And for the Clone Wars, we made it specifically era appropriate. Okay? And then for GCW, there'll be a list of appropriate. And then one thing that the rules specified was you want irregular squadron. Well, that's kind of boring, and we all know pirates love Z95, so we added 2 Z95s as an option to mix things up, right? Instead of just bringing in 4 YT-2400s, right?
Yeah.
You bring in a mix of freighters. And then one big thing we did, and we're going to go through all these specialty squadron things here real fast. There's a recover prototype, and for Clone Wars, we're doing it if Gar is defending and the CIS picks recover prototype. The prototype to get recovered is a Scourge. And we thought that would be fun because the Scourge is a Nubian Star Drives bomber, and Naboo is part of the Republic. and it's like an experimental bomber. And then if the CIS is defending, we made it the aggressor, which is kind of fun because it's IG-88 ship. But overall, it was a cool, era-appropriate, unique squadron that you can add right during pivotals, and having ships like that aren't part of regular shipbuilding is fun. And the Empire using an aggressor, it sucks. But the CIS having an aggressor, all of a sudden it's different, right? So, the one thing we did do was, if you have an ally token, and you don't control Mandalore or Nal Hutta, what can you do with it, Reuben? You can still use it, right?
Yeah, you can still use it. So, in the last campaign, we used Ion Radio's rules, and in Ion Radio's rules, if you control Mandalore, you can use the Gauntlet, and if you control Nal Hutta, you can use the YT 2400. But if you didn't control either of them, you just had a dead token. So, with Garrett's deep knowledge of the lore and me spitballing some ideas, we came up with a list of not as good squadrons, so your YT 1300s, your Jumpmaster 5000s, your Hawk 290s, that you can use as when you spin the ally token, so you still have a game component that you can have an effect of. Because one of the worst feelings you can have is having a thing that you actually won as a reward that you can't use. So don't do that. Now, it's not as good as a 20-point gauntlet, but so far we haven't had any of them come up. But I'm pretty confident that a cheeky Jumpmaster 5000 and that stupid Tri-Fighter ball, not going to be fun for me.
Jumpmaster giving out intel and escort YT 1300.
Yeah,
7 hull points. All of a sudden, those vultures aren't dying. Yeah.
Yes, please.
Yes. So yeah, but if you own, so basically, it's a list of things you can choose from, and if you own Nal Hutta and Mandalore, you get to add to the list because everybody knows the YT 2400 is one of the goated squadrons of the game, and the Gauntlet Fighter is damn good in task force battles. It's got a lot of hull points, and that raid mechanic is pretty good.
Oh, it ruined my day last time we played.
Correct. And then the other thing, there's another objective called Recruit Allies. This is a really fun one. It's where you get to pick a small base ship to come join you. And so we made a list of fighters, and you'll find this in the document when you can read it, of fighters and ships you can choose from. And we said that you could use a Hammerhead Scout and a CR-90B as part of it. And that's because those are old ships. They were old in the Clone Wars, and when the Rebels are using them, they're ancient. So...
I really enjoy specifically what we've done here, because now you can live in those moments of the lore and you can be like, oh yes, my Rebel Alliance fleet, the small task force on an impossible mission, has this smuggler that comes to their aid in this moment, and it's this dusty ass YT 1300, but he's there to help, and he wants to do his part for the rebellion. It's just so cool.
So, are we ready to move on to what happened in round 2?
Yeah, so next we'll talk about, first is the upgrade change. So after the battles happen, and you gain your strategic tokens, you get to pick an upgrade for your ship. And so the biggest thing to prevent snowballing in this campaign is everybody gets to choose one upgrade card, or if there's a squadron planet, a squadron type up to the points listed on the planet. So if the planet was worth 24 points, you get to choose up to 24 points of squadrons of the same type, which I was very confused about. And it was really funny.
Everybody's really confused last Thursday.
Yeah, so basically, this keeps fleets from scaling out of control for the winner. So both people come in even base. The only thing that scales is experience goes up for the loser to make their commander abilities more powerful. But as Chris said, it's time to go on to round 2 here. So bringing up the battle map, the CIS, because we were down on initiative, got to choose our first planet to attack. And we went back after Mandalore, round 2, baby. And so Nick went back because he wanted revenge. And the Republic chose to keep Jeff there, which completely surprised us.
We were
Really?
not prepared for that.
We really thought Jeff was going to Lothal. We were all
Really?
extremely convinced
Yes.
that
Oh,
he was
interesting.
because we thought you were going for squadrons for Jeff's fleet because his whole thing's squadrons.
But we decided to fight the Siege of Mandalore because we had the ally token for the extra 20 points for us to defend it and then put the base there to then have allies for the rest of the campaign.
I'm super bummed. I forgot to put the gauntlet on my little chart here I made. But yeah, so Jeff had an extra gauntlet. They played Precision Strike, and Nick managed to destroy the Venator, which was huge because that tables you because you have one ship.
Yeah.
Right? And so, extremely interesting. So we take back Mandalore and get our own ally token for next time.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, the Republic declared their attack on Lothal, which we thought was Jeff. And then we intended on Chris attacking Lothal anyways. So we thought, perfect. All right, Chris, here you go, man. Get on in there.
Yes.
But instead you sent Sean.
It was Sean.
Now this
You
battle,
notice a
it's
trend going on here where everything's a rematch.
Yes. So this battle it's a shame it didn't show up on stream with the audio correctly. It was wild.
Yeah.
Chris, you played Abandoned Mining Facility versus Sean's double swivel acclimators, and you got, like, I could see the sweat dripping off both of you across the, like, you could feel the tension.
Well, those dice that Sean were throwing at the start of that game were ridiculous.
He needs to keep those. Wherever they are, keep them.
He was getting doubles on doubles. He was getting his assault proton torpedoes off.
I don't think he rolled a black die that didn't have hit crit for the first 4 or 5 rounds.
Day.
And then both of you managed to fly one ship off the board, which is incredible, by the way, that both of you did that. One after the other, too. And you eked out a win by, I want to say, 28 points.
Yeah, I got very, very lucky. The roll of the game was a vulture that rolled double hits on a red that finished off an
Crazy.
acclimator.
Oh, no.
Listen, vultures rolling a double hit is crazy. It's the highest swing in the game. 8-point fighter. It's like a Z95. That's nuts. Actually nuts.
Heartbreaking.
Yeah, and they both lost a ton of stuff. And you both farmed a bunch of victory tokens.
Yeah, it was a tight game.
After Lothal, we declared an attack on Nalhutta, which is where I went after I left Tatooine. Again, we're really trying to corner these ally tokens because having an extra squadron is really important.
Yeah.
And so, to my complete surprise, Aaron shows back up.
Where did you think he was? You thought he was on?
I thought you attacked Ord Mantell with Aaron's fleet.
Really?
Because I was like,
okay.
Reuben's not going to want Aaron to run into my Providence again. I figured you would come with, like, Ready Defender or something and take his place there to try and, like, stop me from bullying him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I only got 1 XP, so it's impossible for me to have Ready Defender round 2.
Yeah, but I didn't know which upgrade you had.
Sure.
I didn't know. Or I thought maybe you just take low fuel to defend it, right? Yeah. So anyways, Aaron's fleet comes back, and now he has Spats on his Venator, which I was actually I was really concerned about, because while I do have thermals, a Spats and a front arc from a Venator is going to melt my ship. So we played Dangerous Territory. I picked his Dangerous Territory, and at the very beginning of the game, I pull up I land with my Gazanti on an asteroid and pull up the critical that makes it so I can't have command tokens, so I could never ever remove that card unless I land on the station. So I thought I was done at the very start of the game.
Man.
But after that, we just duked it out. His poor Pelta flew into a double arc of my Providence, and my fighters consumed it. And it was looking pretty close at the end. And then, unfortunately, now here's the big thing. And Aaron and I have already talked about this, but he accidentally flew his Venator off the board with no damage on it. No damage at all.
It had
Full
no damage
shield,
on it.
full health. But had he declared hyperspace retreat, he could have just. I would have got the point still, but his team would not have had to repair the ship, which is big. So I take now Hutta, and then our last battle was Reuben assaulted Ord Mantell, and then another rematch. Jason had to go fight him again.
And in our game, instead this time I was attacking, and I picked Jason's Asteroid Tactics because I didn't think that Dangerous Territory was a safe bet, because I always know that top card's projector misaligned when you don't want it to be. So I was really, really sketched out picking that one. But man, he made a circle in the middle of the board, so it was just worm death right there. So I had to play this really cagey kind of slow game, and I was able to catch him on an angle again because he couldn't get his 3 hard sell battles to close the door right. So I was able to kill his flagship again and kill the 2 tri-fighters again. But instead, this game, he killed an extra squadron, and I had to fly 2 of my Y-Wings away so they would go hide at the edge of the board to not give up another 20 points. So it was another close, grindy game.
Yeah, and you guys won, and so now you have 2 super strategic planets on that part of the sector of the galaxy. That really locks up where we can fly.
Now changed the map.
Yeah, so now we got round 2 aftermath.
To think about the presence on the choice of presence or a base when you're on the hyperlane, because the presence does give out the low morale depending on how you move through it, because Smuggler's Run and Ryloth, it's hard to get that side of the board locked down, but with Ord Mantell, you can just keep that one presence, and it really chokes up that side of the board. But you're not getting any of the base upgrades from it. You're not getting your defensive retrofit, offensive retrofit, or the repair yards token. And let me tell you, the repair yards token from Ord Mantell, good token.
Yeah, because you guys lost 2 Venators, an Acclimator, a Pelta, and a swath of fighters.
We lost our entire detachment.
Yeah. So did you have anything scarred afterwards?
I mean, we have scarred ships. We have scarred components.
Interesting. Yeah. So we were able to repair everything. So, oh man.
That's what I figured.
Yeah, we got you good there on the on the trade of that Venator flying off the board was big. It was big.
We lost
I'm sorry,
3
Aaron.
battles and took a total number of scarred components of 387 or something.
Yeah, that's a lot of points.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's a lot of points.
So after that, we both got to spend both our resources, and we both built a base. You chose your base at Bespin for obvious reasons. I say obvious. Another resource generator. Yeah. And then we chose to put a base on Now Hutta, because we're farming ally tokens.
I was surprised you didn't go with Mandalore first, just to lock that section of the board with how much presence is already up there. Because the front lines kind of stabilize at a point where maybe you kind of just don't go there anymore. We're not sure. With all the presence and bases, when they all get in an area, it makes it really hard to get anywhere.
Yeah, so now Hutta rewards squadrons.
Yeah, that's I looked at it and I was like,
yes.
I don't like that.
So when you have bases with certain upgrades, you can choose one player to take an upgrade from a base. And so squadrons are powerful. And as the CIS, we need lots of squadrons to be good, because our squadrons are kind of trash.
Yeah.
If they get in a bad spot. But yeah, so now the board is getting really clogged up with bases, presence. It's only been 2 battles, and we're about to do, 2 more planets, or 4 more planets. I'm sorry. that'll get
Mhm.
presence and bases,
Yeah.
and it's going to really change how we move around on these lines, and it's start to take more condition cards.
Believe me,
Yeah,
I've
it's been
spent a
a
lot of
slow.
time looking at these routes. Garrett can vie for that.
Yeah, we've been having a lot of war meetings
Yeah.
in our council, like putting things to vote and like deciding who and what should be able to go and where.
Hmm.
Uh, there's a lot happening all of a sudden.
It's
Uh,
tough. It's tough. We've
right,
had the same kind of council meetings too.
and everyone's got XP now, enough to upgrade something significant for each fleet. So it's going to be interesting to see who picks what, because some of these things, like my Providence with Master Navigator, it's a totally different ship than
Hmm.
in regular Armada. It's like being able to do take evasive action all the time, right?
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, no, I'm really excited. I think we hit everything we wanted to talk about and hit Chris's target of under an hour. So
Yeah, we try
We
to
actually did
keep
it.
it to time.
yeah, hope everyone liked my graphics. I was really excited about making my little
They
battle
look good.
graphics. So
Hmm.
I was trying to decide what information to add to them next. I'll probably release these two, maybe. It might be harder to make it because you got to make custom like fleet compositions and everything. Maybe not. Maybe just the map. We'll
But
just
I
do the map,
will
everybody.
I will let everybody know that we actually have set up a rotation as far as who is on the stream, and so that person is on the stream regardless, and whoever they're facing, if it's 2 weeks in a row, it's 2 weeks in a row. For this coming week, it is actually my turn, so that would have been 2 weeks in a row. But one thing that I will point out is that I am not actually going to be doing the stream. I am going to do a recording, so you'll be able to catch it on YouTube. It won't be on Thursday night, but it will be up there just because we're trying to figure out and pin down exactly where this audio desync is coming from.
Yes. And also, I'm going to Gen Con this week, so I won't be there Thursday. So we'll have to figure out a different
Yeah,
time
we
for me to
will.
fight, which works fine. Take my old boy Grievous and Providence there.
You guys in those Ginny Tartakovsky Grievous gifts.
Oh
It's
man,
driving
yeah,
me right up a wall.
we spam him, man.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
guys do.
so funny. But yeah,
Try to get
thanks
my
again, Chris.
Captain Fordo in there.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm super excited. Uh, I can't stress enough how fun campaigns are.
They really
Um,
are.
it, I played two 400-point games Friday night. Love that too, but like, I'm just all jazzed up talking about
Hmm.
these little campaigns.
I just have to say, the routes, the hyperspace routes, have actually added a level of complexity that I truly enjoy. I mean, this last round where we were really discussing what to do and why we wanted to go where we wanted to go was entertaining in and of itself, even though people didn't agree with me.
Don't leak our war cancel meetings, Chris.
Oh, no. It doesn't matter what they know because I'm not telling them anything. I just said you guys told me no.
Yeah,
Yeah. Like,
and we haven't even gotten to Spynet tokens yet. Oh,
No.
just
So
the
there's
the pure potential of moving two, or moving three and taking a thing, or moving anywhere and taking like a really bad thing, and it all being secret until everything's done. It's just, oh, you can talk for hours and hours and hours and not come to a conclusion about anything.
yeah.
And then you're like, oh yeah, they're definitely this place and they're for sure gonna do this, and then it's just not right.
Nope.
yeah. So we hope we surprise you in this next round.
Yeah.
So
I hope
we'll
we
see.
surprise you, because boy, we need it after what
And
happened
of course,
last week.
then comes the pivotal battle, and that can really shake up the way movements are going to happen. We still have to really figure out exactly what happens with that.
Yeah, I'm super excited. I know most people just logistically will never be able to do 4 versus 4 campaigns, but our whole idea of doing 2 separate 2 versus 2 pivotal battles is so tantalizing.
Yeah, like
oh my gosh.
the 2 pivotals will happen, totally mess up the board state, and the other half of the greens are going to come out. So there's going to be way more options to get like uniques and stuff. So the board is just going to be totally just like different.
Well, I want to thank you guys for coming on the show and talking about this tonight. We will be back in a couple of weeks, and hopefully in a couple of weeks we will actually be live on Twitch again. We should be, based on my schedule. It's just a matter of scheduling did not work out this week, which is why we don't have the chat going on and we can't answer your questions live. But we wanted to get this for you. We wanted to get it recorded, so thank you for taking some time out to do that, guys.
Absolutely.
No problem at all.
All right, I am going to say good night to you guys.
All right. See you, everybody.
Good night.
And thank you again for tuning into the show. I hope you enjoyed what we had, what we were talking about. We're really enjoying this campaign, and I'm anxious to give you more about what's going on. I have not put together the intelligence reports that I was talking about doing. My schedule is really tight, so it's kind of difficult getting all the information from all the players to put together those reports. I hope I can do it, but I'm not going to make any promises, guys. Garrett's graphics are going to do a good job of giving you some basics, but they're not going to give you the upgrades. So hopefully I'll be able to get that pinned down here. Thursday, like I said, there's not going to be a live stream. We will have the recording up on Saturday like we normally do, and then next Monday we are going to have the Star Wars The Swoder stream with Mallet5309. So I hope you guys have been enjoying that. Let me know what you think. Still looking at the possibility about doing a Tuesday stream. Not sure about that. I'll wait to see what people think. So thank you for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful week.